Hello, I'm Chris Burns, and welcome to The Network, where we connect into a matrix of newsmakers to get to the heart of an issue. And watch out, they've got to answer in 25 seconds or less, or else. Let's take a look at that issue right now. Tensions rise again on the divided island of Cyprus in a race for resources. The Greek Cypriot government authorizes a U.S. oil company to drill off the southern coast, and a Turkish research ship backed by naval vessels searches for gas deposits. Both sides are trying to confirm that part of the eastern Mediterranean has vast undersea gas reserves. The Israelis are also drilling nearby. The issue further complicates efforts to reunite the ethnic Turkish north and ethnic Greek south, a key stumbling block to Turkey's bid to join the EU. Cypriot President Dimitris Christofias, whose country joined the EU in 2004, says Turkey's latest action betrays its expansionist designs against Cyprus. The issue is just one example of simmering maritime boundary disputes that also threaten to become flashpoints in Southeast Asia, the Arctic, Africa, and Latin America as the search for energy sources intensifies. Now, wired into this edition of the network is here at the European Parliament in Brussels, Yanis Kassoulidis, Cypriot MEP on the Foreign Affairs Committee and a former Cypriot foreign minister as well. Also here in Brussels, Michael Emerson, senior researcher at the Center for European Policy Studies, or CEPS, and in Ankara, Suat Kinikoglu, who's deputy chairman of the governing AK party. Thanks all for joining us. So let's send a question to all of you, and starting with Yanis. How dangerous is this situation, and could it lead to an armed conflict?
No, I don't think so, and I don't think it is dangerous. There is no dispute. It takes two to have a dispute. Cyprus hasn't got submarines, hasn't got air force, hasn't got a fleet to threaten anybody. So it's just Turkey who is agitated, and it's agitated on its own.
Okay. Michael, how do you see this?
I think this maritime dispute is totally artificial and pretty absurd from the Turkish side. The exploration in question is way south of Cyprus, about as far from Turkey as you could possibly be, and it's well within the Cypriot exclusive economic zone.
So what? We don't want to gang up on you, but what's your answer?
Well, I think the two other speakers forget that the island hosts two peoples, the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots. And what we are arguing for is not the drilling or seeking for natural resources, but the sharing of it.
Okay, Suat, let me pitch this then back to you, Mr. Yanis, is that the Turkish government says that you shouldn't start drilling until you actually have some kind of a settlement where you're sharing the revenues. Why didn't Greek Cyprus wait?
Because this is a very scarce commodity, very precious, not for Cyprus, but for Europe and for the rest of the world, and nobody has the right to sit up on such huge amounts of hydrocarbons as it is expected and do nothing waiting for the Cypriots to resolve their problem. This wealth, if it comes to be, belongs to all Cypriots.
Michael, is this possible? Do you think really that the revenues from this can be shared even without an agreement?
I pass on that. I think the question of sharing the revenues is surrealist.
All right, let's leave it at that. Let's move on to the fact that the Turkish envoy to the EU, Selim Künüralp, has renewed his threat to break off ties with the EU over Cyprus. How serious is that threat, Suat?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as a threat. I mean, basically, Turkey does not recognize the Greek Cypriot administration in the south. We can't deal with an entity we do not recognize, and what we have said is clear. We will not be dealing with the presidency for 6 months, and I don't think it's such a matter of magnitude to describe as a threat.
But wouldn't normalization of relations with Cyprus, Greek Cyprus, be a step in the right direction, not only in reconciliation talks between the North and the South, but also Turkey's bid to join the EU, Suat?
Well, I agree, and I think this recent whole flare-up about natural resources is not really about natural resources, but it is really about the troubles of President Christofias in the south. He's trying to diverting the problems internally, and rather significant problems internally, and shifting it to an issue that would unite the Greek Cypriot side together. It's unfortunate, especially at a time when now substantial issues are being discussed between the two sides.
Okay, so then we got to pitch that to you, Yanis. Is this a political red herring, this drilling thing, to draw attention away from problems inside Cyprus, Greek Cyprus?
The contract with the American company of Houston, Texas was signed 3-4 years ago, and it's the timing chosen by the company when to begin drilling. It has nothing to do with Cyprus. It's not under the control of Cyprus.
Okay, and let's move this on a little bit, where we've got the Turkish Cypriots, if you remember, voted, so if our viewers remember, voted in favor of the so-called Annan Plan, and the Greek Cypriots rejected it. Shouldn't the EU, Michael, be making greater gestures toward that part of Cyprus to try to integrate them in the EU?
The Turkish Cypriots, they have passports of Republic of Cyprus. They are therefore citizens of the European Union, and I think it is time for their place in life, economic life, and so forth, to be normalized.
But Suat, I know you can't really speak on behalf of the Turkish Cypriots, but wouldn't some sort of effort by the EU to settle these property disputes in northern Cyprus be a step in the direction of reconciliation between North and South, and also perhaps a move toward Turkey's talks with the EU?
What we need, Chris, is really the implementation of a decision taken by the European Union on the 26th of April 2004, namely 2 days after the referendum when the Turkish Cypriots voted in favor of a UN plan. And that is a direct trade arrangement with the Northern Ireland that will lift the isolation, and EU credits to be extended to the northern side. The Turkish side has been punished for going along with the international community, and we continue to object the isolation of the Turkish Cypriots. They do not deserve it.
But this seems like a real standoff. Yanis, how do you answer this here?
Well, we are not against the European Union providing financial assistance to the Turkish Cypriot community, nor do we against to any other arrangement regarding trade, provided that this arrangement does not bypass the internationally recognized legal member state, and this can be arranged, I think, with goodwill.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Turkish position over the maritime dispute is absurd and discredits the reputation of the present leadership. However, on this issue, I think the Greek Cypriot position is really badly wrong. They're in a minority of one in the European Union in not wishing to move ahead towards the de facto normalization of economic life for the Turkish Cypriots.
Okay, then to all of you, very quickly, what's it going to take for a breakthrough in this north-south divide? What is it going to take? Will this drilling effort have to stop? Will there have to be a solution on the property rights? Is that are those the main crux of the matter right now? To you, Suat.
Look, this is really not about drilling. This company, Noble Energy, has 2 Greek Cypriot or Greek members in their board. It's no coincidence that this company has been chosen. The timing is deliberate to divert attention that Mr. Christofias has domestically. And we find it absurd that this is done at a time when the United Nations Secretary General is calling for an advancement in the talks. We are at a critical stage, and it's not as bad as some people paint it. There could be a breakthrough, and I think Mr. Christofias is trying to divert attention from the possibility that actually a breakthrough could be achieved.
Okay, Yanis, very quickly.
I hope that the talks under the UN aegis will yield results. And let me say that those who use the drilling, they are looking for excuses. Otherwise, why shouldn't there be a success?
Okay, and Michael, last word.
Yeah, well, I think the drilling goes ahead and it's in conformity with international law. However, the major blockage is because Greek Cyprus has basically a different conception for what the constitution of a reunited Cyprus should be compared to the Turkish Cypriots. This is an irreconcilable difference, it seems.
Thank you, Michael. That's all the time we got for now. I'd like to thank our guests, Yanis Kasoulides, Michael Emerson, and Suat Kinikodiou. I'm Chris Burns, and until next time, thanks for connecting with The Network.